My name is Durb Morrison. I'm from Hell City, Columbus, Ohio. I'm the organizer, promoter of Hell City, tattoo artist, former owner of Stainskin Tattoo Studios. I worked with Guy last year here at Hell City, and I think the wheels have been spinning since then. And they came up with the idea of Interstate, and we worked on it for the last 6 months with Guy and Michele. They organized this great thing and proposed it to me, and we went from there. We've been organizing it for a while. Brought an amazing energy to the whole thing. It brought another aspect. It shows, it showed that the artists are talented off the skin, and showed that what they could do on canvas. It was a great addition to the whole show, and it brought a whole new excitement, and I think a whole new appreciation too for the art form of tattooing, seeing that we don't just tattoo, that we're fine artists as well.
Welcome to Hypercast. This is episode 1 of our new live webcast podcast interview variety show. Thank you for tuning in. Today we've got Durb Morrison as our guest. We've also got a special surprise guest, Michele, who just signed up at the last minute. He'll be joining us a little bit later. We'll be doing some tattoo critiques later on. But we're going to start out our conversation with Durb talking about fine art in the tattoo industry, which is a thing that has really blossomed in recent years.
And we're also celebrating finally having our new website up. It just went live about a week ago. It was in the works of happening for quite a while. People had asked us if we had abandoned our website, so give a look at hyperspacestudios.com and join us every 2 weeks right now that we're doing these podcasts. Next guest is going to be Nico Hurtado.
Yes, on the 16th of this month.
Something that I've always had in all my studios, even from when I opened up Stainskin back in 1994, is an art gallery, because it's an essential part of what we do. I mean, tattooing, to me, it is a fine art, painting, all that, and it all contributes to the other form. Like the painting should always be hand in hand with tattooing, in my opinion. It's something that we incorporated at every Hell City Tattoo Fest as well, as we want people to see that, we are fine artists, that we paint, on and off the skin, essentially. So it's a valuable part to tattooing. It's a valuable part of the history of tattooing. It's a valuable part of the future, and it's done nothing but contribute to the expansion of the art form.
Well, you've done a lot to contribute to it, too, Durb, so thank you.
Thank you. It seems to keep blossoming every year. Keeps bringing new people together, old people back together. So really happy with this year. We had wet paint, one of the live painting performances this year. We had it at both Hell City Fests in Columbus and Phoenix, and we expanded it in Phoenix this year too. So we had a lot of local painters from down there come out and paint, and it was phenomenal. Like I said, everything seems to be, it's definitely a well-oiled machine, but it's definitely blossomed into something I never could imagine when I first started it. So it's going great.
Now, when you say local painters coming in, you're talking about people who aren't necessarily coming from within the tattoo industry, but they've kind of been attracted like moths to a flame to this, this event of yours?
Yeah,
Nice.
I mean, down there we have like Paolo Acuna and a bunch of local tattoo artists and painters, and what we asked them with the wet paint project this year is to find some other local just painters to come out and to kind of mesh with the tattoo artists and be one with the whole project. So it went really good. We had a great turnout. I think we had almost 30 artists painting down there in Phoenix this year. So
Wow,
it was great.
wow, that's like almost Interstate kind of numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Interstate that was the mothership.
That was 40.
Yeah.
It was definitely the mothership.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a hard project to beat. That thing, Interstate, was amazing. I mean, it's legendary, and the artists that participated in that and just got to experience that, I don't think they'll ever forget that in their life at all.
Yeah, I mean, for those who weren't actually at the event, we had 4,500 square feet, and
Just about
some really bright lighting over each easel, but then we kind of darkened the rest of the room. We had a DJ booth and everything else. We really created an environment, but the project was 5 days long, and the first 3 days were in private, where the artists actually got their paintings started in a room that was not open to the public. And so by the time we actually were set up in this mothership kind of environment, everything was well underway. We had great momentum, and people were really immersed in their project. So even with the distraction of being in this tattoo convention style crowd, everyone is really cranking by that point.
Yeah, I feel very, fortunate to see, like you said, the behind the scenes aspects. Everything from Wes at the garage of cutting wood and putting everything together. You guys were, there with the artists, getting everything prepared and getting the painting started. So I feel very fortunate, not just putting on Hell City, but getting to see these behind the scenes, of the artists creating everything. So when it is, I guess for the general public, you get to see the stages that led up to it. It means that much more, definitely.
So what was Art Fusion like? Now, this is something that was originally started by, Paul Booth and Filip Leu, and, I was involved with it at one point there when Michele and I were still
What
doing
year was that?
shows.
Was that like 2000? I think it was
gosh.
Tattoo the Earth 2000 in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it started in Worcester, and actually they had been at some kind of, I don't know if it was called Tattoo the Earth, but it was basically a rock event where they just had a tattoo tent, and I guess they started playing around with the idea there. Yeah, I mean, it's managed to keep momentum on its own. I mean, obviously it takes somebody like you and the intent behind your event, which has always been to keep a lot more art in the industry.
When I was first thinking about Hell City and starting to promote Hell City, it was actually at the Worcester show up there where Art Fusion was going on, and that's where we were seeing, like, you guys were all doing like a lot of collaborative tattooing. That was kind of like the birth of that at that show. And I was actually in the back room. I think I was making a stencil or something, and Paul was just kind of like in the back there resting. And he's like, that's where he approached me if I wanted to bring Art Fusion to Hell City, and I definitely jumped on that. And I hope I made him proud and made Philip proud and all you guys proud with it. It's pretty much a staple of the show now. It's got it's the second stage at Hell City. So, and it bounces off of all the other events too. So when Art Fusion's going, it starts and it gets all the attention from the crowd, and then we bring other events around it. So it kind of immerses with the whole show overall too.
And I guess we should give a little background, for the audience again. I mean, a lot of you probably are familiar with Art Fusion, but especially in the convention environment, what it entails is you've got a row of easels and a row of artists, and there's somebody on a timer, and they're telling you, switch.
Yeah, and that's what takes you by surprise.
And you can't get too attached because it's going to change. So it's just about being part of this snowball of momentum and working together as a team and being part of this collective energy, which is so much of what the tattoo community is in general. Whether you're tattooing or painting, we're all part of the same scene, and we're all working together.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I think it's a great opportunity for people to get up there. A lot of people are real nervous to get up and do performance art in front of a crowd, But Art Fusion gives them that. I don't want to say it's a limited medium, but it's all charcoal, so you're not messing with a bunch of paint and stuff like that. It's very simplified, and that's what makes it enjoyable, I think, for everybody doing it as well.
Yeah, I think that at this point, especially since it's been going on for a while, people understand that they can just let go. And as tattoo artists, we don't do that. I mean, it's kind of the opposite of tattooing, where it really matters how it turns out. And with the Art Fusions, what really matters is that you have a good time and that you're spontaneous. And I mean, it's always nice when one of them comes together great, because they don't always. It's not the kind of collaboration that Michele and I have been involved in, so many times, where, everyone involved is, put a lot of planning and thought and communication into the project before it even starts. It's a whole different game. I mean, you're just going for it.
I kind of see all the art momentum going on behind the scenes of tattooing is just being pure energy, just momentum, like just using our creativity and like it's like a pre-calisthenic workout. You're just getting inspired and getting your juices flowing so you can explore and how do you say that, like just put it into all the work you do, whether it's tattooing or painting. We're all artists and we're all expressing ourselves, and we're a part of this larger community that's still sort of subculture, which is, I think, kind of cool, because it's not like exploited. We're still
there's still a family
fighting to stand out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Tattoo, I mean, that's one good thing about tattooing. It does feel like a huge family, especially at Hell City or any of these conventions.
Yeah.
Everybody comes together, and it is like a family. The thing with, like we were talking about Art Fusion, the free flowing, as tattoo artists, I don't want to say we're restricted, but we have to be very, very tight, very precise with everything that we do. Art Fusion is more of a spontaneous, just an expression of, of yourself, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that there's actually been some artists who've gone home and tried to do things that have been a little bit freer, and I remember when I first started doing that, what that was like. I mean, it never came naturally to me. Before I was a tattooer, I was an illustrator. I was doing work with the airbrush, and everything was very controlled. It was extremely technical, the way tattooing is, and there was this expectation of a certain look. This was kind of the 80s airbrush heavy metal look, the Iron Maiden kind of motif. And I mean, not judging it for what it was. It was a good experience, and it definitely, I think, prepared me to tattoo. But loosening up was not something that, to me came very naturally. And I think that a lot of tattooers have that same, kind of limitation.
But it can only make your art better if you can relax a little bit and put some of that free-flowing energy back into your tight work. Yeah. It's just going to loosen up the whole experience of doing it.
I think it's a good balance too. Like I said, we are so restrictive and with tattooing that it is a good balance to just let loose and just make art, without any preparation, just on point, and that's something I've actually enjoyed more with my recent painting and stuff like that. I've taken that approach, and I don't sketch on the canvas. I've just been kind of free flowing with it. And actually, with the limited amount of time that I have to not work on large projects, it's been nice to just put a canvas in front of me and just roll with it, and whatever comes out, comes out,
I think that by encouraging all tattoo artists to work in other mediums at tattoo conventions and beyond, we're reminding everyone, including ourselves, that we're artists. And so if you say, yeah, I'm an artist and I'm also a tattooist, and you put that energy into your tattooing, it sort of infuses that momentum to push a certain individual style further. It sort of frees you in some ways of the restrictions that the foundation of tattooing sort of commits you to.
Well, I mean, tattooing, you've got assignments. Right. I mean, everything that you do is for somebody. They've made a request, and I think that's great. In fact, that's one of the things I'm most grateful for in my long involvement with tattooing, is having these clients that have something particular that they need from me, and these challenges that they bring. And you grow from these challenges. Sometimes you have to go into territory you're not even comfortable with, and you wouldn't necessarily do that on your own. But to then be able to go into a place where you don't have any of that. I think that one thing that's happened as a result of a lot of tattooers working other mediums is we're seeing, I think, more freedom on skin. Mm-hmm. This means pieces that flow more, that work with the body better, that have, I think, more energy, more overall strength as a piece when you're looking at it from a distance. I mean, these are all things that it took us a long time to arrive at as a community. We did a lot of these little detailed things and
a lot of
covered the whole body
over the years.
Yep.
A lot of experimentation, to get to that point where, like you said, to free flow on the body more, to learn how the design works with the body. I mean, that is something that comes from letting loose and just incorporating how visually how you see it, and just apply it that way.
Well, back to Filip Leu. Remember those bodysuit drawings that he did?
Yeah.
He wasn't necessarily seriously considering tattooing any of them. He just wanted to work fast. And this is when his dad was kind of, really still leaning on him to, get loose. And, Felix was a huge influence on Filip that way. And he always told him, paint, don't draw. Even when he was working with pencil or charcoal, to think in terms of, big open fields of color, of large gradients, of alternations of dark and light, rather than little shapes with little outlines, even though, a certain amount of that, ultimately does work its way into the big picture.
And there's an element of difficulty to doing that too, to simplifying something so much that visually, like Filip's style, it's big, it's open, big shades. That could be more difficult than doing, like a more of an intricate tattoo to think that simplistic and what's going to work, what's going to look good in the long run. I mean, Filip definitely has that down, and that's what I think everybody's trying to attain. Like myself, I do a lot more tighter tattooing, but as my career goes on, I am trying to loosen up. I think that's one of the critiques you gave me when I was at your place, was bigger shapes, and that's something I've definitely tried to put in my work here recently. Yeah.
That's got a famous soundbite. I'll tell every tattooist that.
Yeah, well, no doubt you'll hear it from me a little bit later tonight. Because I really believe in that. It's that thing that you see from across the
What
street.
you see from a distance.
Yeah.
And if you can see it from across the street, it'll hold up well over time too.
But how about this conundrum? First, the client has to give you the trust to do a bigger tattoo in the first place. Because
It's true.
a lot of the stuff I do starts small and ends up big later. So how do you start with big shapes right away?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a little more challenging.
Yeah,
you
I
gotta
mean, most
work
people
into
don't
it.
start that way.
Yeah.
And
mean,
I like small detail too. I mean, it might be a chick thing. I don't know.
You can
But,
balance it out.
Yeah, it's got to be balanced.
Yeah, a little bit of both I think works well. It depends on
Yeah.
the design and the client too. I mean, like you said,
Yeah.
our clients give us projects all the time. I think sometimes because clients give us so many projects, like you said, Guy, it's almost like homework. Being a tattoo artist is almost like being in school constantly. You know, you're doing your project during the day, and you have to go home and do your homework to get ready for class for the next day. So, but all that, it lends to the growth of the artist. You know, it lends to them getting more comfortable with different styles and things like that. So,
I also want to throw some props out to the client because I feel like whenever I'm tattooing, it's a collaboration. It's not just me; it's us, and it's their requests and my listening and our meeting in the middle. Somehow that creates the piece. So it's never. It's always it's always a hybrid of momentum of the client and the artist, and that's also the challenge too, which I think is freeing in some ways because you have to let go of certain ideas that you have and listen and work with your client and make them happy too.
yeah.
But still stays true to your principle and make it look like a nice tattoo.
They might think they know what they want. I mean, there's that thing where they've got all these ideas that work great on paper, like written down, but as soon as you actually start drawing, it's too much stuff or whatever. And there's always that. One of the other things though is we get stuck in these sort of holding patterns where if you've been doing a certain kind of work for a long time, that's just what people ask you for and expect from you. And it becomes hard to expand outside of that. And that's another good reason to, either paint or to collaborate with other artists.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I've got a couple of questions in here from the chat room for Durb. Haha, get ready.
Yeah.
The first one is asking about Pintsized Paintings Volume 2. Whatever happened to it?
Yeah, actually, we have over 200 paintings that have already been turned in for Pintsized Paintings Volume 2. I plan to release that project. I'm actually going to talk to Guy and Michele about getting them some canvases.
I was about to say, where was our invitation?
Yeah, definitely. We're actually into the now that Hell City's done, I've actually been able to refocus on some of the smaller projects that I'm working on, and Pintsized Paintings 2 is actually one of those, and I plan to release it at both 2014 Hell City shows. It's not going to be a book this time. It is going to be a traveling art show, and it's also going to be a free iPhone app, kind of like the first volume's a free iPhone app right now as well. So we plan to release it again. The book, we're not going to do the book. I think that the iPhone, having the art gallery in your pocket is a better way for for people to have that. But we are going to be traveling with it. We'll probably go back to Sacred Gallery again, back to Off the Map Tattoo again with it, and travel around. So it's definitely coming. So get ready.
I think the digital format is great. I mean, people.
People use.
I still think that art books are great. But I'm old-fashioned in that way. If you can make it more accessible, people appreciate it more. The book is going to be on a shelf. The digital format is going to be in their pocket. Yeah,
they can show their friends. Like, did you see this? And here it is. It's just the next wave of where we're at.
Yeah, I think with the books, I ordered it was my first book, so I ordered so many of them, and I still have a good chunk of them left that I'm like, maybe, we'll try the digital thing. If there's enough requests, I'll make it into a print book. Definitely.
I think you'll sell them all eventually. With the way your convention's going so well, it's just a matter of time before they're all gone anyway.
They'll become collectors at some point, and the last few will go, and you'll be sad to see them.
The first project was great, so the second one is turning out just as good, if not better. I mean, the caliber of art we have for the second book so far is.
Another question from the chat room, and this is for everybody, I imagine, is how do I get into seminars, and do I have to reserve a spot?
Guy?
Okay, well, if it's a seminar with limited seating, you just be one of the people that signs up first. If it's something that's being offered in an online format also, which many of them are right now. I mean, all the ones that I'm doing, lately, and most of the ones that they're hosting at Tattoo Now are also being offered in online format. So these are all ways that you can access these seminars. I mean, you might think, well, looking at it on my computer, that's not as nice. But one of the things that people were saying after the first webinar that I put on was that they felt like they were closer than they could have been in a classroom setting. I mean, the camera angle and everything else, they were seeing the needle huge on the screen. So this is a way of accessing it without having to travel. But of course, being there in person does have its own appeal.
Hey, so Durb, how about you go about reserving seminars at Hell City?
Usually at Hell City, unless it's a limited, like an actual limited class with a certain 20 cutoff or whatever. Our seminar room it's so big that they don't really sell out because we have so much seating. And what we do is we tell people to just show up a half an hour early to get signed up for their for the seminar that you're wanting to take. And we usually have about 3 to 5 seminars a day, depending. So we just have people show up right at the seminar room. They rarely ever sell out because of, we have 200 to 300 seats in the room. So you can always get online too to read what seminars are going on if you go to hellcity.com. We always have extended descriptions and how much they are and anything that you get with the seminar, like a brochure.
Another question that we have for you, Durb, from the chat room is how do you manage your time between the shop, the conventions, tattooing, and your personal life?
That's the $1 million question, man. That's what everybody wants to know. How the hell do you do so much? I don't know. I think it's definitely a careful balance of time. It's a lot of caffeine. I enjoy what I do. It never really feels like work. It can wear you out, but I've never really once felt like it was work. It's something that I want to do. With organizing Hell City, I feel like tattooing's given me so much that Hell City is my chance to give, back to tattooing and back to the community, and bring a lot of good things to those people. So between that. 2 conventions a year, True Tubes, Red Tree Tattoo Gallery. It's just a careful balance, and like I said, it's not work. It's something that motivates me. It's something that drives me every day. Knowing how I'm affecting other people, I guess, is a big motivating factor.
Before we get on to the other things, something I wanted to say that Michele and I have always been very impressed about Durb is when an idea comes up or something comes up that needs to be done, he doesn't put it on a back burner. He just does it. Then and there, he expedites everything that comes up. Durb expedites. I've tried to take a page from that. It's a hard thing to do. You've got to be super motivated. You've got to have all the resources and connections. And Durb uses all those things.
Durb's got it going on. We know firsthand.
I have a lot of good people behind me. A lot of good friends, but throughout the industry. I've been tattooing for 24 years now. So a lot of the, I don't want to say a lot of the younger generation, when they came into tattooing, they saw me being really active, you guys being really active, and I don't want to ever be, or inactive with tattooing. So I wake up every day, and when I wake up, I get stoked for my day. I get stoked to go talk to my clients or to tattoo or to paint or to, just work on my projects. And like I said, it's not work. It's me. It's my life.
You're a great example of taking care of business.
Thank you.
And contributing to tattooing. So we're glad to be friends with you.
Definitely. I just want to look back, if I ever do have a day where I start to slow down, I want to look back and say, you know what, every second that I was, pushing, I gave it my all, so there'll be a day eventually when I slow down and I get a little bit older and
you'll sleep when you're dead.
A little bit.
You say you
a
sleep
little
when
bit.
you're dead.
Yeah, I'll sleep when I'm dead from lack of sleep.
So hey, before we get Mike Cole on the line, Guy, there's been a couple questions speaking about art books. When are we going to get more about the Biomech Encyclopedia? It came in twice.
Yeah, I wish I could give a more concrete answer. Yeah, it's this huge project. It's proven to be far more epic than I could have anticipated, and of course, there's been other things. I've been chipping away at it, and I'm hoping to be able to dive back in this fall. A lot of the other participating artists have still been cranking out great work, and sending it in, which you know is going to be able to keep the book when it does finally come out very current. And we're going to be reopening the collaborative Flickr gallery for a very brief period to get some things finally wrapped up, which we're also very excited about, because, you know, when there were 30 or 40 of us, you know, waking up every morning to see what transformations had happened the previous night to whatever we had posted the previous day. I mean, that was an exciting time. It was, this is collaboration in the 21st century. So that's one of the things that gave this project such an amazing amount of fire. And so, no, I can't give you a date. It'll be next year. It'll be awesome.
It's in the future. It's in the queue, and more stuff is coming in as a result of it taking a little longer, which I think is pretty cool.
It'll be a better book because of it.
Yeah, it'll be a better book because.
So Michele, there's a question in here for you. There's a comment that someone loves your style, and they're wondering if you're writing your own tattoo book, or if you have one coming.
Yes, actually, I am working on a book. I've been working on a book, pretty much documenting the past 20. How long have I been tattooing for? 15 years. So. Pretty much I started tattooing with a very specific vision in mind, and I've been documenting the clients who believed in it, such as Mindy Murad, and who's now Mindy Robertson, of course, and people like that who've been with me from the get-go. And I'm doing a book featuring the women that I tattoo and how they've metamorphosized into like full sleeves and an overall look, starting with just shoulder caps and small pieces. So that's pretty much been my main project that I've been working on. And my goal is to have it out by 2020. So I'm still working on it, but I'm following women that I've been tattooing and documenting their evolution as they collect more work for me.
People can hold on a little bit. We're going to try to get Mike Cole on the line here.
My name's Mike Cole, and I'm from Southern California. I definitely like painting at a convention, because you don't have to deal with... I mean, I love tattooing, don't get me wrong, but painting is probably... I love it a little more because there's not the heel factor. There's so many variables with tattooing. It's crazy. There's a huge amount with painting as well, but you know, you don't have to consider the canvas doesn't feel, so it doesn't bleed. It doesn't, you know, you don't have to nurse it. You don't have to worry about it when it leaves. You can watch it. You can make sure it dries correctly, but you know, with a person, you never know, you know, how they're going to treat their skin over the years or heal it or whatever. Just too many variables with tattooing. Painting's a lot more relaxing. It's a good exercise to take the stress away from the tattooing and still create, you know, and do what you love.
We'd like to talk to Mike about, you know, first of all, about the live painting experience.
He was part of Interstate that Durb helped facilitate.
And then, you know, about what he's working on right now. And then we're all going to critique some tattoos.
How's it going?
Hi, Mike.
Hi.
What's up, Mike?
How
Durb.
you doing, man?
Not too bad. How about you?
Hi, Lotus.
Great.
And Princess. It's Princess, everyone who's watching.
So, yeah, Mike, how long have you actually been seriously oil painting? I mean, you've been tattooing, what, 21, 22 years?
Yeah, right, a little over 20, almost 21.
Okay.
Oil painting since '99, which I got into it because of you, watching your paintings, you know, materialize and just being inspired by watching you paint, and you know, other artists as well. But it was around '99.
And I think that a lot of tattooers who get into painting, they don't often connect their tattoo style and their painting style that directly. You know, they find something different they do with painting. It might even be the same subject matter, but the approach will be completely different. You know, it'll be the painting approach versus the tattoo approach. You know, obviously you've got a little bit of strong line work in your tattoo style that you're not going to see in your paintings. But other than that, there's a ton of overlap. What is this synergy like for you, and what have you learned from the process?
Well, I think the tattooing definitely made me a painter. It wasn't the other way around first. I messed with Prismacolors and pen and ink and stuff like that before, but tattooing definitely made me paint, and it's definitely has a huge overlap, like you were saying, into the tattooing. You know, in addition to the line work, you know, my tattooing is pretty much my paintings, but with solid line work. You know,
That's one thing I've noticed. Like your tattoos are very, very intricate. They do resemble your tattooing. As far as like tattooing that intricately and keeping that, you know, what do you think is the key to, I guess, not losing track of that dimension that you're getting on the skin?
Oh, losing track of it as far as getting cross-eyed when you're trying to line that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff that you're doing is it's intricate. You pull it off perfectly, but to the average Joe, might get lost within that design.
The axis in mind, the XYZ thing. You know, I actually learned that from Guy in his book, showing how to draw on an axis and just making sure you don't just look at three sides, but you also look at the other three sides that you can't see, and always keeping those in mind when you're going to you know, compose something like that. Just make sure you keep the other three sides in mind.
I have a question for you, Mike. So your work has a nice hyperspatial dimension and quality to it. What are you trying to say with your tattoos and your paintings? Where is the correlation? Can you articulate on that a little bit? I really like it.
It comes from just trying to translate this language that from extracurricular activities with entheogens. And in the past, you know, it's this language that I see, and it's always the same with each different experience. Let's say that it's just this language that I keep seeing over and over and over, and it coats everything that I'm seeing.
You're just trying to articulate that as directly as possible.
Trying to bring it back, but not just using it to define the edges more than just value with the shading and light source. Using actual line work to define the edges of it by writing on top of the shapes themselves.
Well, I really like what you're doing. I like the new direction your work is going in. I think it's very attractive, and it flows well on the body, and it's a new look, and it's really, really nice to see. I enjoy watching your work on Instagram and seeing your work grow. It's really taking a new direction, and I already liked it before.
It's never stopped evolving.
Yeah, so good job, Mike.
It's awesome to be in this community, and it's an awesome time to be tattooing with all the great talent and everything. Just the influence is endless now. It just seems like it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The universe of tattooing is growing exponentially. It's hard to keep up with, actually.
I remember when I was sitting with you one time, you actually said that you freehand a lot of that geometric shapes as well. Do you find yourself doing that a lot? Like the large painting behind you, is that a lot of freehand work?
All the intricate stuff inside the shapes are just all improv.
What do you think is the biggest inspiration for an artist, and does watching tattooers work help?
I think other artists are one of the largest inspiration. You know, seeing what other people accomplish. You know, I think that's one of the biggest influences, you know, to any artist, is being influenced by other artists. And yes, definitely watching whether somebody painting or tattooing. I mean, it all lends to the big picture, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Other artists, the work ethic nowadays is really just, they're hungry. The younger guys are super hungry. And nature, of course, that's a huge influence, inspiration.
Yeah.
No wonder we're all friends. We all agree. It makes perfect sense. Absolutely.
Well, you know, I don't know what percentage it is now, but I'm sure most, you know, serious artists in this trade grew up, or, you know, when they were younger, noticed art. You know, had some kind of connection with it. You know, I mean, I grew up with art books in the house and was totally drawn into them. You know, not just the art itself, but reading about the artist's stories and things like that. So yeah, that's a huge influence. But being actually part of a community where everyone can look at what each other has been doing that day. I mean, that's been kind of an exciting thing. You know, it wasn't like that 25 years ago.
I would also like to add that, you know, I came into tattooing with just, I hate to say it, just an artist, but I wasn't a tattooist, obviously. I was, you know, as a painter. And since I have become a tattoo artist, what inspires me the most is other people's tattoo art, because I see what's possible and where people are pushing the boundaries of tattooing. And it's such a hard thing to begin with. And it's just incredible. I mean, I find it incredibly motivating to see what other tattooists are doing. And, you know, I feel like there's room for all of us to be good. You should never get discouraged because there are really good people out there. You should just let that inspire you, because there's room for everyone. And I think that's an important message. And, you know, if you look at other people's art and it inspires you, get busy, make it yours, own your own style, you know, and look at what other people are doing. But just the critical aspects of being a tattooist and working on people is, I think, also raises the bar a little bit for what people are pushing towards.
Absolutely.
You're not allowed to make mistakes.
I remember one time Aaron Kane was, you know, we were talking to this TV producer guy, and he asked Aaron, so, hey, what is it what do you feel like when you see an amazing piece of art? Do you feel, maybe a little bit of professional jealousy or whatever? He's like, no, man, I want to be blown away. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen often enough. I want to be blown away because it reignites, what I'm trying to do artistically, and it's easy to get too comfortable. And I think that's one of the nice things about this industry is we all push each other. I mean, that's happening in a very real way.
And one thing I want to add is every time someone does something amazing, it elevates the bar for us all. Like, we are the tattoo artists, and we're part of this community. So someone in our community does an amazing tattoo that people are talking about, that elevates us all, and I think that's important to acknowledge and to be proud of.
That's the energy and creativity, with the people that we're around is so inspirational because, like you said, Michele, it's like seeing, what another tattoo artist is doing. That makes you go and try to work just as hard and kind of like contribute back to the energy that everybody's putting out. The energy, of our communities is just amazing, and that's kind of the fuel for everybody else at the same time.
It's also somewhat raw, it's not like we have this art degree to be like justifying our style. It's more like we have to do it to justify it. So I think the work that's involved in being a good tattooist is evident, and that matters more. And I like that it's sort of edgy and not so, it's not very polished. It's not as polished as maybe being in an art gallery and going to college.
Some of it's extremely polished, but the profession itself is definitely a little raw at the edges, and I think everyone prefers it that way. It's informal.
It's informal. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
And that's something that's important in the arts. I think that as soon as an art form gets too formal, people stop experimenting. They stop reaching outside of their comfort zones. I mean, one thing about tattooing is everyone's looking to kind of outdo what they've already seen and
or outdo themselves. That's what I'm trying to do. Like, every time I do a tattoo, I want to say, how can I do this better, or how can I improve? I've never, I want to keep pushing the boundaries.
Or to make something nobody's seen before.
That would be a great goal.
And when a craft has become too formal, that's the opposite of what you want to do. You want to do what has been seen before just right. And of course, there are certain styles of tattooing that are very traditional, and there's a beauty in that. The kind of refinement that it goes through, where there are these narrow limitations, but people can continue refining it within that. But by and large, this is a community that embraces the new.
It's pretty cutting edge.
This is we got a couple questions in here in the chat room for everybody here. How about, I'm a tattooer and I'm interested in oil painting. Should I just join a local studio to learn? What are your thoughts?
That can help to join some, find some classes, local classes, community college or, stuff like that to help you get the basics down, and then go from there.
I think before you, move to you have to understand oil painting first of all, and that's where the classes will help you to understand how it actually works before you can start creating, big pieces of work and stuff. But yeah, education is going to be key to anything, and educating somebody to how to oil paint. Oil painting is much more difficult than acrylic or any of that because acrylic dries so fast. Where oil, there's a lot more to understand with it. So
you can make mud. People make mud and they get discouraged.
Yeah.
And you can prevent yourself from having to go through 10 years of really hard trial and error by taking, the right instruction for 10 weeks.
Yeah. I say learn the rules first, and then you can break them.
Yeah, definitely.
Or any of you guys that are attending any of the shows that either Tattoo Now puts on or that Durb puts on, take Sean Barber's class. He's a master at painting. He's like one of the most phenomenal painters I've ever met, and he breaks it down really nicely.
He also has a great way of taking the fear out of it, of making it something that you can just sit down and do and, not be afraid of how well it turns out. Because I think that, even though we all know it's just a canvas, it doesn't go home and heal and have to wear the thing for the next 50 years or whatever. But still, none of us wants to turn out something that looks like crap. Yeah. And then, not be able to show our friends and say, hey, man, look at this thing I did last night. None of us wants to be humiliated, even if it's just only to ourselves. We're used to living up to a certain standard. And so you do have to let go of that to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But you can with a painting more easily than a tattoo.
Yeah.
Art painting, it could be it can be very intimidating for a lot of people too, because they'll look at what that guy is doing and think that, you know, that they instantly want to get that, you know, out of a painting. But I think, like you said, like getting rid of the fear aspect of like oil painting and you know, not having an expectation when you go into it right away is a big part of it too.
Well, if any of you guys out there haven't seen the Interstate movie, I highly recommend ordering it from us. So someday it'll probably be available, hopefully at what's that thing called, Netflix. But right now we have it. And Sean Barber has this beautiful quote in it. He says, "What the hell are you afraid of? Are you afraid of your ego? You know, like, you know, making you feel uncomfortable about what you're producing? You know, just attack it, do it. Just explore and not be afraid with experimenting in a second medium and challenge yourself as an artist. Get better. It's only going to apply into everything else that you're doing."
Great.
Don't be afraid to be bad for a short time.
Yeah. I mean,
You'll learn quickly. If you can tattoo, you already are able to work in one of the most difficult mediums there is.
or how about this one? If you have a critical eye and you don't like something, that says something about yourself, because you can see that there's room for improvement. It's the people who don't think there's room for improvement that don't improve. How's that?
And
I
you'll
like
also be able to see what needs improvement
Yeah.
and to actually directly address it. It's not just like you're going to look at it and say, oh, it's crap. You're an artist. You should be able to look at it and say, okay, I went too dark there. I should have been sharper here. I should have waited for this to dry before I did that. You'll figure it out with a little bit of trial and error.
I think tattooing is very unforgivable, where painting is very forgivable. There's a lot of room for experimentation and all that too.
Yeah, the canvas doesn't bleed, doesn't complain.
That's
Not
nice.
that everybody. Yeah, I'm just. You don't have to worry about the pain factor with the canvas. A little more freedom there.
So this one is for Guy and Michele, although I know that I think everyone up here is a parent. For Guy and Michele, have a 2.5-year-old son. The next kid is due tomorrow. Oh boy. What focus did you guys have to scale back, if any? Working with paint at night has taken the hit for me. Any thoughts or tricks?
I'd like to comment first. I totally understand that, and pretty much since we had a child, for the most part, all I'm doing is tattooing. But on one hand, it's limiting, and on another hand, it's great because I'm single-mindedly focusing on one thing and really trying to refine it. Whereas before I had a child, I was doing a lot of different things. So I feel like my tattooing has improved because I've just been focusing on tattooing. There is some time out that you take from your art, but raising a child is art. That's how I see it. When you grow as a human, you can put that into your art. So what you're not doing with repetition and eye coordination, you're doing it from living and experiencing and sacrificing, and that will come back to you.
It will. It'll show in the art that you do.
We can start getting into the critiquing part. And I want to throw up the Greek heritage sleeve first. This is from Max.
I mean, it's definitely a smooth piece.
How do you critique something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really nice tattoo. You know,
Nice.
with, you can see all the shadows are in place. It's smooth black and gray. It looks like the contrast is in right places.
Yeah, I mean, personally, nothing wrong with the sleeve. Just go a little darker in some areas, maybe. That's about all I would.
Well, we can move on to the Memento Mori sleeve. This is another one from Max. Yeah, we're gonna fire it up here.
I mean, that one's pretty nice too. Both these black and gray sleeves are really, really nice. Like really, really nice.
You know, I agree. They're both great. The thing that stands out to me with both of them is just that overall sense of strength and clarity. You know, I don't necessarily think it has to be bigger shapes, but just if the darks could be darker and the lights could be lighter, if there could be a more, you know, focused use of concentrated areas of dark and a few big areas of openness in both of these sleeves, just so that, you know, from a distance you could see more of a strong light and dark alternation. I just think it would, you know, take what's already a couple of pretty nice sleeves and really put them over the top.
The next one is the sea turtle.
Okay.
Sea turtle one, to me, the background it's not fluent throughout the whole design. Like in the mid left area, you kind of see just a chunk of shading in between the, you know, some of the turtle images there.
I would say I could follow through a little more.
Yeah, it needs, you know, more of a fluent flow through the whole design. I don't like the top two turtles either. I think they kind of combine and look like one image up there. It doesn't have a lot of separation up there, in my opinion.
Too close together.
Yeah.
Yeah, on top of each other. Yeah, maybe a little more separation with a little further away on the one below the top one.
Okay, well, hey, I wanted to make some comments too. And of course, you guys already predicted this, but these shapes are all too small. Even if your client doesn't want to go a lot bigger, sometimes
Less.
you can go just a little bigger and make your shapes much bigger. Maybe have a few less things, like Michelle's just saying, less in general. You don't need all those turtles necessarily. One or two of them, like the two overlapping turtles, if they were pointed in the same direction, and the smaller background one
It's lower in contrast.
lower in contrast and dropped out before it hit the larger turtle. Then it would give you a sense of one being near and one farther away, and that's probably all you need. Those two turtles and some swooping negative space, and you would have been able to go a lot bigger, do better detail, have a stronger overall tattoo. And you've got good technique. This could have been a really neat piece. I mean, it's still not bad, but yeah, bigger shape.
Okay, we're checking out the hummingbird tattoo now by Johnny Smith.
Ooh, hummingbird. When do I get to see that?
Yeah.
All right, I love the comment, but I haven't seen it yet. Is that beautiful backlit one that I liked on Instagram?
Yeah, this hummingbird's very painterly. I like the crisp look to the hummingbird with a real soft focus background. I mean, I really like that technique a lot.
I love this piece. I mean, it's really original and refreshing to see this approach. The thing that stands out to me, though, is I think that the hummingbird in that background should have separated just a little bit more. The way that the background gets darker around the hummingbird is great. That does help to support it, without that outline. But I think in compensation for that, it should have gone darker in the bird itself, and maybe just a little softer with some of that background, just so the two layers separated a little bit more. Of course, inside of the arms is great skin. You can get away with a little bit more.
Okay, which one's
This
the
is
Johnny
the
one?
the clock.
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah, we're
okay,
looking
yeah.
at that right now. I saw that earlier today. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I like the perspective on this piece a lot.
It's also very steampunk looking, don't you think?
Yeah.
A little steampunk?
And he just did another clock piece along the same vein in color, right?
Yeah, he did that, today,
him?
I think, or he did it last night and just posted it up today.
The only thing that I
It's
think
nice.
the piece is really, really nice. I don't like the bottom lettering, how tiny.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't like the lettering. I think that's my biggest thing I don't like about it is over time that can blob together, or like everything is so clean and readable, and and then you got that tight lettering. I think it's just kind of I don't want to say it's an afterthought, but it looks like one.
It might not be necessary.
The arc for the outermost border on the watch, right where that lettering is, that doesn't follow the arc quite right. It's a little flat.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a stickler for those things, but anybody can see that, because the rest of it is bang right on. So you've got that one arc that's a little flat. The other thing is that the hands are passing in front of a lot of stuff that's similar in value to them, and so they get a little lost. And when this tattoo has got some years on it, you're not really going to see those hands anymore. So they need to have a little space around them. I mean, if you're going to do the hands dark like that, the surrounding details should drop out right behind them.
Yeah, a little halo, like a white halo, maybe.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, for sure.
Yeah, or even just lighter background detail, But yeah, going almost all the way white with those would have been the strongest way of doing it.
Okay, we're moving on to the file name is J King. It's the skull with the crown.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I'll add something, although I don't do black and gray. It seems like it could have more value differentiation, especially in the crown and the top part. It seems kind of flat. Like it could use more tonal variation.
Well, especially when you look at the skull itself, which has got a lot of really nice modeling to it. There's good contrast.
Like it looks more unfinished at the top.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely weighted more towards the bottom. Yeah, it should have a little bit more weight towards the top. Here's the thing with black and gray. I mean, it continues to lighten over time. I think this piece could be a little bit more rich, in my opinion. With the shading. That way, it stands a test of time as far as black and gray, like a wash in the skin goes. I like the contrast at the bottom, but I think it needs to be weighted a little bit more throughout the whole design.
Yeah, maybe some more metallic kind of highlights and details in the crown.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the next one, it's Joe King, or J King 2. It's the moth with a butterfly.
Same example. It's very top heavy. You know, it's the opposite of the other one. It's top heavy there. So I think some of the designs and some of the line work at the bottom could be a little more definite, in my opinion, and a little bit more weight at the bottom. I think would be good.
Yeah, a lot more weight in the lines for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I would think, as some of those lines might leave in a couple years, 2
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah, and that's the thing people got to think about is the longevity behind a tattoo is very important. You know, not to just when the tattoo's done, that's important too, but you want to think of the client 10, 15 years down the line.
Yeah.
The next one is Tyone. This is the bio foot.
Good old Ty. I like everything that Ty does. His use of color, I like his muted tones that he uses too through his tattoos. I like his flow.
I like how it's got some softness to it. It's not. I'm not. I really, really appreciate biomech, and I think on a lady, it's nice to see that there's some areas that are somewhat reserved. It's not all like bold. Yeah.
If I was gonna pick out one thing, and I've hammered Ty about this plenty of times, is he needs to have some shapes that are more open. If you look at this piece from a distance, everything is shaded with pretty similar value. And I know that part of the goal is to not go too dark with this, but by going just a little bit darker with the darkest areas, and then the lighter areas having a lot more open, it'll just look more dynamic from a distance.
So next one is Brian Geckel, the peacock.
Yep.
I feel like I really like this tattoo, but maybe like a halo of skin or white around the head of the peacock would separate it from the feathers more and create more distinction as a priority shape of the head.
Just because the eyes behind it have so much going on in them, and they're very visually dynamic, but they compete with the head. So leaving that little bit of space around that head would really help.
Or skin. It could have been a halo of skin.
He has line work like on the head, and you see some of the feathers on the body. I think if he would have gradated some of those back feathers, maybe use a little bit of line work on some of the ones that were more in the foreground, I think it would have put a more of a perspective on the tail feather pattern and kind of given some of it priority to kind of show the body gradate back to the out of focus stuff.
Yeah, I also think the little jet of light coming out of the forehead, in order to make it look like light, it needs to be significantly lighter than the area around it, and it's not. And you can't go much lighter with it. The white is as light as you can go, but sometimes just by going a little deeper behind something, you can actually make that thing look lighter.
Like purple, some purple gradients maybe around it.
Or even just the same color as the feathers are already, but just a little richer right behind that ray in order to pick it out a little bit. Really smooth piece, though.
Yeah, it's a very nice tattoo.
And it's big shaped, and I'm all about that.
Isn't it? I want to throw something out there. I know we're doing a critique right now, but I just want to say that I am totally amazed by where we're at right now in our history, and just going to the Target and seeing people's tattoos. I mean, everyone who's doing tattoos right now, even on the most entry level, it looks good. What do you guys think about that? Because we've all been at it for a while.
Yeah, it's blowing my mind. I mean, definitely from coming when I first started tattooing to the level of art and the caliber of artists that are now picking up machines and tattooing, it's a whole different ball game, and it's inspiring, yeah, it's insane. It's a whole different world than when I started tattooing.
But you made that world possible by starting tattooing, so we're all part of the stepping stones.
We're all contributing factors.
Yeah.
There's a lot more education nowadays. There's a lot of kids that are going to, to actually going to art school, and there's a lot of people bringing a lot of, I guess education overall to the art, and it shows.
That was absent until 20, 25 years ago when the convention promoter started to allow that, because before that it was completely closed.
Yeah, that's something I've always embraced in Hell City, is trying to push I want the public to come and see that we're not just tattoo artists, we're fine artists, and I think by showing them that gives them a whole new appreciation for tattooing and the tattoo artist.
So get involved, join us whenever we post these things, ask us questions, and also maybe you want to plug your column because people are not asking Guy enough questions for his column he has in Tattoo Magazine. No one's asking questions.
Well,
everyone listening,
there's some,
he's not getting very many.
Well, we've had more good questions in the course of this podcast than I normally get in a month.
Right.
But yeah, it's in Tattoo Magazine. It's a column where I'm addressing questions from both artists and collectors, and please tune in. Hit me up with your toughest questions, and I'll try to make it into a column.
Tattoo Magazine.
You can also find it at either guyaitchison.com or we've got it at tattooeducation.com as well. Another thing worth mentioning, Michele and I have had hyperspacesstudios.com for 17 years, and just this week we have launched the new version. So please come check that out. We've got a lot of stuff there that has not been posted in the past, including hundreds of pages of magazine articles and things like that, a bunch of videos, brand new stuff in the galleries. So come check it out.
And if you enjoyed hearing from Durb and Michael, we will be hearing more from them because they're our good friends, and we want to talk to you guys more. So I hope you can engage us in some more conversation. I feel like we're just getting started, and what's an hour? It's nothing, right?
But our next guest, and this will be on the 16th of this month, will be Mr. Nico Hurtado. Many of you know him. He's just an absolute ace.
He's an anomaly.
Yeah.
Because he's so good, and it's just like, where did this man come from?
And he's a really nice and humble individual, very open and sharing. It should be a great show. And he's actually working on a big gallery show right now, which anybody who's been following him on Instagram, I'm sure you've seen all the stuff in progress. So we're all ready to have our mind blown, and so that's who we'll be hearing from 2 weeks from now. So please tune in.
And attend Hell City if you can go to a good convention because it's great, and attend anything that tattoonnow.com does because they're awesome too. They're putting on the best shows that I know of.
It's funny you mentioned Nico because Hell City was actually the first convention he ever tattooed at, and that year my announcer Jeff always gets tattooed by a tattoo artist on stage, and he asked Nico that first year, and it just blew his mind, and little did anybody know what Nico was to become, and he's just phenomenal.
He's crazy. He's so good. That man, I don't understand it. I can't look at his work. I mean, I love looking at his work. He's just so good at what he does.
He's my neighbor. I can actually jog to his place.
Go get him.
Oh, wow.
We need to come visit you guys and hang out.
Hey,
That'd
seriously.
be fun. We should come.
Behind the house.
Yeah, we should do some barbecues.
Yeah. Just make veggie burgers for us.